पिछले सेशन में हमने देखा कि एक राजा थे भरिष्यत, जो बहुत कर्म कांड में संलग्न रहते थे। और फिर नारद ऋषि आए। नारद मुनि ने इन राजा को कहा कि इस कर्म कांड से तो मुक्ति नहीं मिलेगी। और याद हो तो फिर कहानी के by name Puranjana. He had a friend whose name was Avijnanata. This friend had earned that name because no one knew what he did and how he acted. His presence was unknown to everyone, and unless one thought of him and asked him to be with him, he would not make his appearance. Puranjana and he were very great friends. In fact, they were considered by everyone as inseparables. They would ever be together, and so it was for a long while. As time went on, Puranjana became restless. Avijnata was not. Though he was warned by his friend, Puranjana left his home and the company of his friend and went in search of a new home, a new dwelling place. He wanted a city fit enough to be ruled by him, and he searched all over the world for it. For a long time he wandered in search of a city for himself. He travelled far and wide, and yet he could not find what he was looking for. He was very unhappy, since many of the places he found and even tried were not good enough for him to stay in, and so he kept on travelling. Once on the southern slopes of the Himalayas, he found a city. It was a beautiful city. 9 gates adorned it. There were many turrets, and there was a great wall around it. Lovely gardens were to be found everywhere, and all around the city was dug a moat. The houses in the city were well designed. They were built out of gold, silver, and iron, and inlaid with precious stones like sapphire, crystals, pearls, emeralds, and rubies. There was a mansion with 7 floors. The streets were wide and large. There was a marketplace. There were bazaars, and there were gambling places in plenty. Pillars adorned with corals and silks were to be found everywhere. The city was called Bhogavati. डिस्क्रिप्शन समझो सिटी की। उसको ऐसी सिटी दिखी है जिसके 9 द्वार हैं और जिसके 7 तल हैं उस सिटी में, और जिसमें बड़ी रोड्स हैं, और उस सिटी का नाम है भोगवती। तो यह डिस्क्रिप्शन है शायद शरीर की। 9 द्वार, 7 तल, चक्रास, और यूज करते हैं उस शरीर को सिर्फ भोग के लिए। भोगवती उस शहर का नाम है। Adjoining the city was a heavenly garden. All the trees of heaven were found there. The birds and the bees weed with each other in making sweet music. There was a lake, and across the lake blew a pleasant cool breeze. The breeze was laden with the perfumes of innumerable flowers. The trees on the edge of the lake made the place delightfully shady and inviting. The cuckoos were making sweet music in the mango grove, and the king Puranjana wandered around, drinking in the beauty of the place. इससे पहले याद हो तो उस सिटी की डिस्क्रिप्शन में बहुत ऐसी बातें भी आई कि बहुत सारे गैम्बलिंग के प्लेसेस थे, हर तरह की चीज़ें थी। हाँ, एवरीथिंग दैट, जो भोग की जो भी सामग्री है वो सब उस सिटी में अवेलेबल थी। All of a sudden, there came within his sight a beautiful woman. He thought that she was a heavenly damsel. Her form was captivating. Her eyes, her face, her lips, her hips, and her lovely breast were intoxicatingly lovely. She might have been about 16. Her eyes looked here and there, and her eyelids fluttered like the wings of a butterfly. She looked at him and away from him. The golden earrings which she wore in her small ears seemed to whisper secrets into her ear, making her blush. She was dark, and her form was swaying captivatingly as she moved. Puranjana stood rooted to the spot, gazing at her. He became He came to his senses for a moment and he saw that she was strangely attended. There seemed to be 10 main attendants, and these 10 had each 100 women as companions. An immense cobra with 5 heads was walking ahead of her as though keeping close watch on her, guarding her. Descriptions, huh? Puranjana pulled his eyes away from the others and looked at her once again. The language of her eyes, the sight which made her breasts heave, the way she tried in vain to cover them with the silk which she had wrapped on her shoulders, the way she stood tracing patterns on the ground with her toenail, all these made him realize that she did not resent his presence, that she was also interested in him. A smile hovered on her lips and he went near her. He had to speak to her or else he would die, so he thought. He asked her, "Tell me who you are. You're so beautiful, your eyes, timid like those of a deer, are making me mad. They're like the petals of a lotus. Whose daughter are you? Where have you come from? Where do you belong? Are you a woman of the heaven come down to the earth to see its beauty? Are you Re, the wife of Dharma? Bhavani, the consort of Mahadev? Are you Saraswati, looking for Brahma? Perhaps you are Lakshmi, the wife of Lord Narayana. Beauty like yours cannot be just earthly. What are you thinking about? In your preoccupation, the lotus which was in your hand has fallen down unnoticed. You are not heavenly since your feet are touching the ground. You are earthly. You have made me your slave by your beauty and by your captivating ways. Your dark eyes have made me your slave. Will you become mine? I have fallen in love with you. Please make me happy by becoming my wife. Tell me who these attendants are, these 10 men and these hundreds of women. How is it possible for you to have this dreadful snake with you all the time? I am sorely puzzled. Please lift up your eyes and look at me. एक डिस्क्रिप्शन दिया जा रहा है उस सिचुएशन का और उस स्त्री का, और कैसे ये ही इज जस्ट फॉलन फॉर हर. किस तरह से वो डिस्क्रिप्शन बताई गई है. With a smile and with halting words she spoke to him. She said, I do not know who I am, nor do I know who created me. All I know is that I belong to this city and that I live here. I do not know who built this city either. These men, my lord, are my companions, and these women who are their attendants are also my friends. This 5-headed snake guards this city when I am asleep, and it is ever with me. It is my good fortune that you have come to me. You have come in search of pleasure, and I can, with the help of these friends of mine, gratify all your desires. You can be the lord of this city. I will be by your side. You can drink the cup of joy to the fill for 100 years. You are the ideal man to become my husband. I would never have been happy with a man who is a scorner of the pleasures of the senses, who is ever thinking of death which is imminent, who is always thinking of tomorrow and worries about it. Such a man is not dear to me. But you are different. Your thoughts are only of pleasure. You have no thought of tomorrow, nor are you scared at the thought of death. You will be satisfied with the happiness that you can get in the present. There is nothing so wonderful as the love between man and woman. Nothing else can equal that happiness. You desire me and I am very much in love with you. Come with me to the city called Bhogavati, and we will live happily without a thought for anything else. क्या सीन क्रिएट किया. एपिटम ऑफ भोग का सीन है ये. इससे बड़ा भोग इंसान को दिखता नहीं है, तो एपिटम ऑफ भोग की एक सिटी बनाई गई है. That's how chapter 50 ends. The city of Bhogavati. क्या नाम भी चुना है ना. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Chapter 51. The happy life of Puranjana. Her name was Puranjani. She and Puranjana lived in that city with 9 gates. He lived happily in the inner apartments of the princess, and he was always with her. Not a moment would he lose her company. He did all that she did. What she desired was what he wanted. If she wanted to sip wine, his desire was to do the same. He was hungry when she was. When she sang, he became the words. When she wept, he shed tears with her, and her smile was enough to make him smile. The words he spoke were the words she spoke, and the words he heard had to be the ones which reached her ears. What she thought was sweet smelling was the same for him too, and what was ugly in her sight was abhorrent to him too. In short, he had no entity except through her. He was so lost in her. Puranjana lost all count of time. Days passed him by and they seemed like moments to him. Children were born to them and they were growing up. Still, Puranjani held him in thrall. He did not realize that he was growing old. His age was now 50. His love for his wife became tenfold, and the love he had for his children was also growing. He was lost in the thoughts of himself, his children, his wife, and their love for each other. He did the conventional things like performing yagyas, but the love he had for his wife and the pleasures which she was still giving him were always in his mind, and he was happy. He was unconscious of the truth that time was fast slipping by, that his youth had left him long ago. The passage of time was the one thing which he never noticed. Old age, the unwelcome guest to the body of a man in love, came to him and came to stay. Chandavega was the name of a Gandharva chieftain. He had 360 powerful servants. These in their turn had the same number of women to attend to them. These men were fair and the women were dark. Chandavega decided to attack the city called Bhogavega. Chandavega decided to attack the city called Bhogavati. With his 360 henchmen and their women, Chandavega went to the vicinity of the city of Bhogavati. He surrounded it on all sides and his intention was to destroy it entirely. The city had the snake to guard it. The snake, Prajagara, with his 5 heads. He tried in vain to stop the attacking forces from destroying the city. He fought valiantly with the enemy, which was 720 strong. The fight went on for 100 years and Prajagara could not withstand the onslaught. Puranjana was sorely distressed at the state of affairs. The attack had begun long ago, ever since he came there to live with the woman he loved. But he was so lost in his love for wife and children, he refused to pay attention to the invasion of Chandavega. Now slowly it was trying to force itself into his thoughts, the fight which was going on. But still he refused to pay any thought to what was happening. Because वो तो engulfed है अपने so called प्रेम में, उस भोगवती सिटी में. समय का उसको बोध ही नहीं रहा. Kal, time, had a daughter by name Jara. Unfortunately, she was not attractive and no one wanted her. She travelled far and near in search of a husband. No one welcomed her advances and people turned their faces away if she appeared in front of them. Once she came across Narada and fell in love with the young sage. She asked him to take her for wife. Repulsed by him, she became very angry and cursed him to wander the entire universe without a place to call his own. Jara then went on with her search for a husband. She went to Yavaneshwara, the death, and asked him to take her. He looked at her with kindness and pity and said, "Listen to me and do not be angry with me for my frankness. You are not attractive, nor are you bent on doing good to anyone. That is the reason why no one is willing to accept you. But I feel sorry for you. I will tell you what you should do. I cannot accept you. As long as you keep on asking people to accept you willingly, they will not do so, and you will only be disappointed again and again. I suggest that you creep on people without their being aware of it. The entire world will then be your slave. ये जरा को बोल रहे हैं. जरा को समझते हो ना? जरा का मतलब क्या होता है? जब शरीर जराजीर्ण हो जाता है, वृद्धावस्था को जरा बोलते हैं. देखो कहानी कैसी, ट्विस्ट कैसे आया कहानी में. काल की बेटी हैं जरा, और कोई अपना नहीं रहा जरा को. सब रिपल्स कर रहे हैं. नोबडी इज लविंग द ओल्ड एज. सब रिपल्स कर रहे हैं. तो मृत्यु ने जरा को ये एडवाइस दिया, you creep in on people without their being aware of it. Then the entire world will be your slave. और इससे पहले दिखा रहे थे अभी कहानी में, पुरवंजना वो लॉस्ट है अपने प्लेजर्स में, और ओल्ड एज इज क्रीपिंग इन. दुश्मन अटैक कर रहा है, ही इज अनअवेयर ऑफ इट. दैट्स इज द स्टोरी ऑफ द जरा नाउ. Do not be afraid. I will team up with you. काल ये बोल रहा है. The death is telling this. कि मैं तुम्हारे साथ टीम बनाऊंगा. तो मृत्यु और जरा टीम बन गई है. This my brother Prajvara, and I will be with you all the time. From today you are my sister, and we will travel all over the world, invisible to the eyes of men. Death and old age, invisible to the eyes of men. And when they are unmindful of us, when they are unheeding, you and Prajavara creep on them, and I will do the rest. तुम जरा और प्रजावरा, तुम दोनों घुस जाना, बाकी मैं संभाल लूंगा. The three traveled together, bent on destruction. Their army was made up of men named Bhaya. आर्मी का नाम भय है. During their wandering, they came upon the city Bhogavati, which was guarded by the old snake Prajagara, and they thought the time to be ripe for their onslaught. Snake भी तो बूढ़ा हो गया ना. When he was unaware of it, Jara entered the body of Puranjana. Jara entered the body of Puranjana. She gained complete control over his body, and he could do nothing about it. And the Yavanas, the assistant of death, attacked the city on all the sides. His body occupied by the invader, Jara, and his city invaded by Chandavega. He found that he was being treated with indifference now by everyone. बुजुर्ग हो गया ना, indifferent attitude by everyone. His children did not care for him anymore, and even his beloved wife Puranjani frowned when he tried to make love to her. He could not invoke the old passion in her, and he found to his dismay that he was himself too weak to indulge in love as he used to. Puranjana looked all around him. The city was falling to pieces under his eyes, and he was helpless. Prajavara approached him, and in his wake came Bhaya. Puranjana was sorely distressed. Prajagara was guardian of the city and could not fight anymore. Like a snake which tries to escape from the tree which has caught fire, Puranjana wanted to get away from the city called Bhogavati. He wept tears of despair. He had no desire to let Prajagara leave the city and go away, and at the same time, he did not know what he had to do. While he was cogitating thus, death came to him and claimed Puranjana. With his death, the city of Bhogavati fell to pieces, and nothing was left of it except the name. Interesting. क्या डिस्क्रिप्शन दिया है नारद ने. That's how chapter 51 ends. Chapter 52 title, Avignata comes back. Avignata, जो दोस्त था. Puranjana's last thoughts were of the woman Puranjani when he died, and so in his next birth he was born as a woman. He was born as the daughter of the king of Vidarbha. The princess grew up to be a beautiful woman. Malyadhwaja, the king of Pandya, married this daughter of Vidarbha. The king of Pandya was a great devotee of Narayana. नारायण के डिवोटी से अब इस स्त्री का विवाह हुआ है जो पिछले जन्म में पुरंजना था. In course of time, 7 sons and a daughter were born to them. When he became old, Malyadhwaja Pandya left the kingdom in the hands of his sons and went to seek peace in solitude. His wife followed him. She abandoned her children and the comforts of the palace and went with him like the moonlight following the moon. Pandya performed tapas and strictly following the rules set down for the Ashtanga Yoga. He gave up his body having realized the Brahman. Vaidarbhi, his wife, had been serving him and attending to his wants. Dressed in tree bark, with her form emancipated because of her austerities, her hair all knotted and unkept became because of negligence. She shone with her Lord like a smokeless flame emanating from the pure fire. When she found that her Lord was dead, she set up a wail of pain and bathed her husband's body with her tears. She then collected wood and placed his body on it. She had made up her mind to ascend the funeral pyre along with him. While she was weeping and mourning and preparing herself for the last journey, there came to her side a Brahman. This Brahmin was Avijnata, वो जो friend था. The Brahmin was Avijnata, the companion of Puranjana in the days of the long ago. He stood by her side and said, "Consider my words for a moment. Who are you? Whose wife are you? You are now mourning the death of this man who is lying on this funeral pyre. Who is he? Try and think what there is between you and him that you should weep for him." Vaidarbhi stopped crying and looked at him in bewilderment. The Brahmin said, "My friend, do you not recognize me at all? Do you remember that long ago, long before you became involved with the things of the world, you had a friend called Avijnata? ये wife वही पुरंजना है." There seemed to be a spark of recognition in the eyes of Vaidarbhi. The Brahmin went on, "We were ever together. We were inseparable in those days. We were called the Inseparables. You and I were like two swans floating on the surface of the Mansa lake. You were very dear to me, and so was I to you. But suddenly you left my company. You were restless for the pleasures of the senses, and you went away from me. You came to the city with the 9 gates, Bhogavati. Then you forgot all about me. But I have had your welfare at heart, and have always thought of you. The time is not ripe for me to do what I have been longing to do since ever so long. I have been waiting to reveal myself to you and to take you back with me. I have come to tell you all about yourself. Forget this man and the misery you are going through because of his death. You do not belong here. Come with me and let us be happy once again." He paused for a moment and said, "You are neither the man who married Puranjani, nor are you the princess Vaidarbhi who married Malyadhwaja the Pandya. It has all been an illusion created by yourself because of your ignorance of your own nature." Puranjana, who was now Vaidarbhi, looked at the Brahmin with faint traces of recognition and waited for more words from him. Avijnata said, "I will explain the entire phenomena to you. You and I are the same. There is not an iota of difference between us. I am the Paramatma and you are the jivatma." Adbhut. कैसे? ये दोनों मित्र थे। देखो कहानी, परमात्मा और जीवात्मा दोनों मित्र थे, दोनों इनसेपरेबल थे, साथ में थे। फिर जीवात्मा के अंदर डिजायर पैदा हुई प्लेजर्स को भोगने की, तो एक इल्यूजन में सिटी बनाई गई 9 द्वारों और 7 तलों के साथ। पूरा शहर क्रिएट हुआ भोगवती के नाम से। फिर मृत्यु हुई, फिर अगला जन्म हुआ, अब दोबारा मृत्यु होने वाली थी वैदर्भी की, बट परमात्मा आ गए जीवात्मा को याद दिलाने के लिए that you and I are the same. We've always been inseparable. ये सिर्फ तुम्हारा इल्यूजन है जिसने तुम्हें मुझसे जुदा कर दिया, तुम्हें मुझसे अलग कर दिया। I am the Paramatma and you are the Jivatma. The Mansa Lake is the heart where we live together. हृदय का नाम मनसा लेक है, मनसा लेक, जहां ये 2 स्वॉन्स की तरह उड़ा करते थे। हृदय, we have always existed together. You're getting involved in the city Bhogwadi, guarded by the serpent with 5 heads, and with the woman Puranjani, is all because of the Maya, illusion. Bhogavati is the human body with the 9 openings. अब explain कर रहे हैं। Puranjani is the mind which enjoys the pleasures of the senses. जिस स्त्री से तुमने विवाह किया, पुरंजनी, वो और कोई नहीं, वो तुम्हारा खुद का माइंड है जिसने क्रिएट किया ये थॉट्स ऑफ प्लेजर्स एंड द सेंसेस। सो योर माइंड एंजॉयज द सेंसेस, थ्रू द सेंसेस ऑल द प्लेजर्स। When you became involved in them, you forgot your real nature. जैसे ही तुम पुरंजनी के साथ प्रेम में पड़ गए, देखो कितना सुंदर डिस्क्रिप्शन है। पुरंजनी इज द माइंड, मन जो भटका रहा है हमें बार बार सेंस प्लेजर्स की तरफ, और हृदय है जहां जीवात्मा और परमात्मा सदा साथ में उड़ रहे हैं, inseparable. When you become involved in them, you forgot your real nature. जैसे ही तुम यहां अटैच हो गए पुरंजनी के साथ, माइंड और माइंड के क्रिएटेड इल्यूजन्स और माया और सेंसेस और उनके एक्सटेंडेड प्लेजर्स के साथ, you will forget your real nature. So more involved you are with the pleasure. जितना तुम प्लेजर्स की तरफ भागोगे उतना तुम स्वयं के नेचर से दूर हो जाओगे, उसको भूल बैठोगे। सूत्र है बहुत गहरा, बहुत गहरा सूत्र है। तो साधक को जीवन में कहीं ना कहीं आके अपनी प्लेजर सीकिंग पे लगाम लगानी ही पड़ेगी, और वो एक झटके में नहीं लगेगी लगाम, वो एक यात्रा है लगाम लगाने की भी, बट शुरुआत तो साधक को करनी होगी। सारे प्लेजर्स भोगते हुए भोगवती में उसको परमात्मा की याद आ नहीं सकती, कहीं ब्रेक लगानी ही होगी, और जितनी ब्रेक लगाने लगेगा वो प्लेजर सीकिंग पे, उतना वो भोगवती से हट के मनसा लेक पे आने लगेगा। ये जर्नी लेक्स पे जाने की है, ये जर्नी मनसा लेक पे पहुंचने की है, जहां परमात्मा और जीवात्मा सदा साथ में है, बट उसके लिए पुरंजनी को छोड़ना होगा। पुरंजनी मान लो द माइंड एंड द प्लेजर्स एंड द सेंसेस, रोक लगानी होगी, ब्रेक लगानी होगी, धीरे धीरे बढ़ोगे उस प्रोसेस में आगे। When you became involved in them, you forgot your real nature. Avidya enveloped you, and your involvement in the meshes of Maya and the bondage resulting from all these became inevitable. You are really caught up in the web of Maya, which is the resultant of your own desires to get involved with the things of the world. देखो एक और सूत्र है, माया तुम्हें नहीं पकड़ रही है कभी भी, अविद्या नहीं पकड़ रही है तुम्हें कभी भी, तुम्हारे खुद की डिजायर पुरंजनी के साथ अटैच होके उस माया को जन्म दे रही है। तो एक्चुअली माया को जन्म भी हमारी अनकंट्रोल डिजायर दे रही है, और उसी वजह से मनसा लेक से दूर हो रहे हैं हम। तो माया को ब्लेम मत करना कभी भी कि माया ने उलझा दिया, नहीं, तुम्हारे खुद की इच्छाओं ने उलझा दिया। देखा होगा तुमने जीवन में कभी किसी चीज की डिजायर उत्पन्न होती है तुम्हारे भीतर, किसी स्त्री की, किसी पुरुष की, किसी ऑब्जेक्ट की, किसी स्थान की, किसी भी चीज की डिजायर उत्पन्न होती है तुम्हारे भीतर। जब तक तुम उस डिजायर की दौड़ को रोकना नहीं शुरू करोगे, तुम्हारा सारा चित्त उस डिजायर पे लगा रहेगा। तुम्हें सोते जागते उठते बैठते उसी के ख्याल आएंगे, टू दी एक्सटेंट तुम्हें रात को सपने भी उसी के आने लगेंगे। तुम सारी ऊर्जा अपने चित्त की उस डिजायर में डालते जा रहे हो, और चाह अंदर से रहे हो कि साधना हो जाए, ध्यान लग जाए, नारायण की निकटता मिल जाए, शिव की निकटता मिल जाए। तो होता नहीं है ये काम, क्योंकि खींचाव उस तरफ हो रहा है और तुम ऊर्जा दे रहे हो उसको। तो इस मूवमेंट को याद रखेंगे, पुरंजनी से मनसा लेक का मूवमेंट है ये। आई गई आगे बात। द मोर यू ट्राइड द डीपर यू बिकेम ड्राउन्ड इन द ओशन कॉल्ड संसारा। तुम जितनी कोशिश कर रहे हो अपने डिजायर्स को फुलफिल करने की, उतना तुम संसार में गहरे फंसते जा रहे हो। तो कोई पूछे कि संसार से मुक्त होने का क्या फॉर्मूला है, तुम अपने डिजायर्स को धीरे धीरे कम करना शुरू करो। तो ये जो पकड़ हो गई है, तुम घुस गए संसार के अंदर, वो तुम रिलीज होने लग जाओगे वहां से। तो खेल डिजायर में हो रहा है। अच्छा सूत्र है। यू आर रियली नीदर पुरंजना द लॉर्ड ऑफ पुरंजनी, नॉर आर यू द वाइफ ऑफ मल्यध्वजा। द आत्मा इज विदाउट सेक्स एंड इट हैज नो अटैचमेंट. You are the reflection of me in the mirror. It so happens that the mirror has become clouded as a result of avarna, and so you were under the illusion that you belong to the body. avarna पढ़ा था पीछे हमने, वेल आ गई ऊपर, मिरर में देख नहीं पा रहे हैं हम साफ अपने स्वरूप को। The body was so easily destroyed by the Chandavega, which is another name for time. कितना सुंदर शब्द बनाया देखो, चांद वेग। चांद क्योंकि मूवमेंट में है हमेशा, वेग स्पीड है उसकी। The body was so easily destroyed by Chandavega, which is another name for time. Destroyed by old age, which is Jara, and Prajavara, which is all the diseases put together. So Jara is old age, Prajvara is all the diseases put together. तो 3 की टीम बनी थी, याद है? जरा, प्रज्वरा एंड काल, जिसमें मेन काम जरा और प्रज्वरा का था। कहानी तो निपटा ही लिया, बाकी बाद में। You are now rid of all of them. You had forgotten the truth about your own self. Now you are one with me, and let us go back to the lake where we used to float together. The lake called मनसा। अद्भुत। तो सुंदर है कि पूरा उन्होंने व्याख्या कर दी उसके बाद। That's how chapter 52 ends. Chapter 53, titled The Truth Underlying the Story. King Prachin Bhari sat silent for a while after Narada had related the story of Puranjana. वापस जुड़ गई बात। ये कहानी नारद सुना रहे थे प्राचीन बरिस किंग को। नारद सेड, दिस इज ब्रह्म विद्या। ये जो कहानी मैंने तुम्हें बताई है अभी, ये ब्रह्म विद्या है। Even as Narayana favors his devotees without their being aware of his presence, even so I have tried to make you realize the truth without making the lessons obvious. The teaching of Brahm Vidya was in the form of a story. I have tried to make you see yourself as the imperishable. I wanted you to know the truth about your own self. Prachina Bari said, please explain it to me more fully, my lord. Ordinary mortals like me cannot grasp the truth so easily. Tell me clearly once again what the story means. अच्छी बात है, ये repeat mode. इतना profound है, ये दोबारा होनी ही चाहिए थी ये बात. Narad said, I will certainly do so. I came to you only with the intention of teaching you Brahma Vidya. I am happy that you want to know more about it. Listen to me carefully. I will begin with the word Puranjana. The Purusha who pervades and illuminates the body, he has assumed, is called Puranjana. Dobara padho. The Purusha who pervades and illuminates the body that he assumes is called Puranjana. जो पुरुष तत्व है, अंग्रेजी में जिसको कॉन्शियसनेस बोलते हैं, जो उस बॉडी को परवेट करता है, उसका नाम पुरंजना है. He has created the Pura, the city which has decided to dwell, and so he named it Puranjana. He has created the Pura, the city which he had decided to dwell, and so he named it as Puranjana. Pura, पुरुष से ये आ रहा है, जो पुरंजना बना और वही सिटी बन गई, वो डिस्क्रिप्शन जो आया था. All and so Puranjana is the Atman which resides in the body. The divinity in him is not seen, but it is always there to guide him in the right path, and that is Avinakyata. Aviknyata. The divinity in him that is not seen, but it always there to guide him in the right path, is Aviknyata, जो उसका मित्र है. वो divinity है हमेशा उसके भीतर present, to guide him on the right path. In the beginning, after the pralaya, when there was nothing but the Brahman, the Purusha was all by himself. After the manifestation of universe by the Maya of the Purusha became Prakriti also. ये पुरुष ही प्रकृति बना है, जिसको हम शिव जगत में शक्ति बोलते हैं. शिव और शक्ति, अर्धनारेश्वर की जिसको संज्ञा देते हैं. Out of Prakriti came its other form, the Mahat Tattva, which became the Aham Tattvas. Then was the jivatma manifested. Tattva bane, Mahat Tattva bane, फिर jivatma manifested. The jivatma became restless and wanted to experience the world of objects. He then entered the human body, which is made up of the 9 openings. The 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, the mouth, and 2 excretory organs. In combination with the mind, Jivatma is able to experience the worldly objects conveyed to him through the sense organs. The mind is necessary for the process of this enjoyment. Now you will be able to understand the analogy of the city by the name Bhogavati. The human body is Bhogavati. तो सिटी एक्सटर्नल नहीं है, वही भोगवती है. The human body is Bhogavati, the home of all enjoyment. Puranjani, who held Puranjana to enjoy the worldly pleasure, is the mind, the buddhi as it is called. The 10 attendants who were with her are the 10 indriyas, the Gyanendriyas and the Karmendriyas. 5 ज्ञानेंद्री, 5 कर्मेंद्री. हाँ, याद करो पुरंजनी के 10 अटेंडेंट्स थे ना, तो 5 ज्ञानेंद्री, 5 कर्मेंद्री. And the many functions of these indriyas are the hundreds of female attendants of the 10 men. Functions of the indriyas. The snake with the 5 heads is prana, the breath of life, and the 5 heads are 5 variations. Prana, apana, vyana, uddana, samana. अद्भुत. और बोला ना स्नेक आगे चल रहा था हमेशा पुरंजनी के. When the jivatma wants to enjoy the things of the world, he does so with the help of the 9 instruments of perception, the eyes, the ears, etc. जो 9 openings बोली. And that is why the 9 gates are said to lead into the city or lead out of the city. इन 9 द्वारों से ही सिटी के अंदर आया जा सकता है, इन 9 द्वारों से ही सिटी के बाहर जाया जाता है. When the mind is bent on the world of objects and in the enjoyment of them, the Atman also has to do same since it has become attached to it. अब याद करो वो डिस्क्रिप्शन आया था, पुरंजना और पुरंजनी का डिस्क्रिप्शन था. जो वो सोचता था वही ये सोचती थी, जो इसको अच्छा लगता था वही उसको अच्छा लगता था, जो शब्द ये बोलता था वही शब्द वो सुनती थी, जो सुगंध इसको आती थी वह उसी को अनुभव करता था. ये क्या हो रहा था? ये ऐसा लगा लव अफेयर चल रहा है, बट ये लव अफेयर देखो यहां खुल रहा है. When the mind is bent on the world of objects and in the enjoyment of them, then the Atman also has to do the same, since it has become attached to it. So आत्मा सेपरेट नहीं खड़ी हुई है. फिर पुरुषा gets attached to the mind. जुड़ गए वहां जाके दोनों. That is why I said Puranjana did all that the women did. जो माइंड कर रहा था, पुरंजना जो पुरुष है वो वही कर रहा था, क्योंकि पुरुष यानी आत्मन attaches itself in the human incarnation to the mind. It's not separate. इसीलिए हर धर्म में, हर साधना की विधि में माइंड पे काम कराया जाता है. It's all training the mind, ऐसा बोला जाता है. पूरा बुद्ध धर्म ट्रेनिंग ऑफ द माइंड पे खड़ा है. पूरा अष्टांग योग ट्रेनिंग ऑफ द माइंड पे खड़ा है. इट्स ऑल अबाउट माइंड, क्योंकि माइंड को ट्रेन किए बिना आत्मा जो अटैच हो गई है, पुरुष जो अटैच हो गया माइंड के साथ, जो जुड़ गया माइंड के साथ, उसको सेपरेट नहीं किया जा सकता. तो माइंड पे काम करना ही होगा. और माइंड मतलब माइंड पे काम करना ही होगा मतलब डिजायर्स, इच्छाएं. मूल वहीं खड़ा है अभी भी. देखो माइंड मतलब डिजायर्स जो 9 द्वारों से ऊर्जा को बाहर लेके जा रहे हैं. और बात अभी भी ये आई थी कि जब तक डिजायर्स चलती रहेंगी तब तक मुक्ति नहीं मिलेगी. संसार में आदमी और गहरे जाता जाएगा. एक ही तरीका निकलने का कि वो डिजायर्स को वश में करना शुरू करे, यानी माइंड को ट्रेन करना शुरू करे, यानी माइंड को वश करना शुरू करे. और माइंड के वश होते ही आत्मा वश में आ जाएगी. पुरुषा कम्स इन योर कंट्रोल. अद्भुत ज्ञान है ये. दिस इज कॉल्ड ब्रह्म विद्या. That is why I said Puranjana did all that the women did. He had lost his identity, meaning he had forgotten his real nature. He had lost his identity. जो वो women कर रही थी वही कर रहा था वो पुरंजना. जैसे जैसे women कर रही थी वो पुरंजना was doing the same. He had lost his identity. Atma loses his identity, meaning forgets his real nature. Purusha forgets his real nature. अद्भुत अद्भुत है, गजब है. The garden surrounding the city of Bhogavati where Puranjana met Puranjani is the world of objects which gratifies the senses. ये सारे गार्डन के दृश्य हैं, world of objects. When the jivatma gets involved with the mind, the buddhi, his desires being the pursuit of the world of objects and the pleasures to be derived from it, with the help of senses, then he is said to have become involved. समझो इस बात को. When the jivatma gets involved with the mind, which is the buddhi, his desire being the pursuit of the world of objects and the pleasures to be derived from it, with the help of senses, then he is said to have become involved. कैसे जीवात्मा इन्वॉल्व हो जाती है? जैसे ही वो जीवात्मा बुद्धि के साथ इन्वॉल्व हो जाती है, और बुद्धि का काम ही यही है 9 द्वारों से बाहर जाना, इन द प्लेजर गार्डन्स विच इज द वर्ल्ड ऑफ ऑब्जेक्ट्स, वैसे ही ये जो इल्यूजन और ये जो माया का व्हील खड़ा हो जाता है, ये जो सेल्फ फॉरगेटफुलनेस आ जाती है, वो वैसे ही प्रवेश कर जाती है जैसे ही जीवात्मा बुद्धि के साथ अटैच हो जाता है, इन्वॉल्व हो जाता है. The real nature of the jivatma becomes enveloped in the maya and he suffers the pain and pleasures of the world. शब्द देखो ध्यान से. He suffers the pains and pleasures of the world. ऐसा नहीं बोला he suffers the pains and enjoys the pleasures of the world. क्या अद्भुत बात की है यहां पे, क्योंकि दोनों सफरिंग है. पेन तो सफरिंग है ही है, प्लेजर सफरिंग कैसे है? अभी बात की हमने कि जिस डिजायर, जिस प्लेजर पे माइंड स्टक हो गया, जब तक वो प्लेजर पूरा नहीं हो रहा, इट ब्रिंग्स अ लॉट ऑफ सफरिंग. चाहिए चाहिए चाहिए, ये चाहिए ये चाहिए. वो तुम्हें कुछ और देखने समझने की शक्ति तुम्हारी हीन हो गई है, तुम्हारा तर्क खत्म हो गया. एवरीथिंग इज गॉन. यू बिकम स्लेव ऑफ दैट ऑब्जेक्ट ऑफ डिजायर. तो जब तक प्लेजर नहीं मिला तब तक सफरिंग है, तड़प रहे हो. जैसे दिखाया था ना, वो याद करो जब डिस्क्रिप्शन दिया था पुरंजनी का, वो आंखें, वो होंठ, वो ब्रेस्ट, वो चाल, वो ये वो. देयर वाज अ डीप डिजायर इन हिम टू हैव हर. और जब तक वो नहीं मिल रही थी, ही सेड दैट आई हैव बिकम योर स्लेव. और पेन है, और उसने ये तक बोला था, आई विल डाई, आई विल बिकम मैड, आई विल डाई. This is a pain of seeking pleasure. So there is a pain in seeking pleasure also. तो ये तो प्लेजर के पूर्व स्थिति हो गई, बिफोर. और फिर एक प्लेजर का आफ्टर भी है, क्योंकि प्लेजर तो छोड़ा सही है. फोन चाहिए 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 चाहिए, लोग लाइन में खड़े हुए धक्का मुक्की मारपीट कर रहे हैं. अब वो फोन हाथ में आ गया, ये हुआ 1 सेकंड में, द सो कॉल्ड प्लेजर. अब फिर पेन शुरू हो गया उसका. गिर नहीं जाए, स्क्रीन नहीं टूट जाए, कोई चोरी ना कर ले, जेब में ही रखूंगा हाथ, 4 तरह के कवर लगाऊंगा इसको प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए. भय, भय की बात आई थी. अब वो भय उत्पन्न हो गया और तुम कमजोर हो गए हो. एक्चुअली होना तो ये चाहिए था, एक नया ऑब्जेक्ट तुमने रिसीव कर लिया, तुमने पा लिया, यू शुड फील मोर स्ट्रेंथ, मोर पावर, बट यू फील नाउ मोर भय. तुम डर के आगे वीक हो जाते हो. अब तुम ऐसे खुले नहीं चल सकते. इमेजिन अगर तुम्हारे जेब में करोड़ों रुपए पड़े हुए हैं, तो या गहने पड़े हैं करोड़ों रुपए के, तो तुम ऐसे खुल के बादशाह की तरह नहीं चल पाओगे. तुम बहुत प्रोटेक्शन में, जब डर के यहां वहां देखते हुए चलोगे. मिल तो गया जो सब चाहिए था, बट अब डर आ गया, भय, इन्वेस्टमेंट की टेंशन. अब इसको कहाँ लगाएंगे? तो वो प्लेजर आते ही 1 सेकंड में वो चला जाता है, और फिर या भय आएगा या पश्चाताप आएगा. किसी ना किसी तरह से कुछ तो आने वाला है. कुछ ऐसा पश्चाताप आएगा, ये काम क्यों कर लिया यार. क्योंकि वो जो मोमेंट है उस ऑब्जेक्ट को एक्वायर करने का, वो बहुत शॉर्ट लिव्ड है. तो उससे पहले भी दुख, बाद में भी दुख है. दिस इज द लॉ ऑफ भूलोक, पृथ्वी लोक का नियम है ये. द सो कॉल्ड प्लेजर्स, the so-called pleasures, the path to the so-called pleasures go through pain, and the path from the so-called pleasures also enter into pain. That's the law of Bhuloka. The real nature of the jivatma becomes enveloped in maya, and he suffers the pain and pleasures of the world. The 100 years which he was allowed to spend with the woman in the city Bhogwati is the span of life granted to man. 100 साल वो उस स्त्री के साथ था. Chandavega is time which moves ruthlessly on, and the 360 Gandharvas are the days in the year, while dark counterparts, the women, are the nights. याद है चंद्रवेगा कि 360 अटेंडेंट्स थे, और 360 ही स्त्रियां अटेंडेंट थी जो डार्क थी. अद्भुत। तो वो 360 गंधर्व जो थे वो दिन और 360 रात्रियां, ये चंद्रवेग आ रहा है इस फोर्स के साथ, जो देखने में गंधर्व लग रहे हैं। गंधर्व आर द हेवनली म्यूजिशियंस, बट एक्चुअली काल है वो। They surrounded the body and eat up one's life without any consideration for the man who wants to fight them or to hold them at bay. Jara is old age, or rather, the decay which sets in with the advent of old age. Naturally, Jara is not welcomed anywhere, and it is but natural that she should team up with death. Death is called Yavaneshwara. The Yavanas are the diseases of the mind and those of the body. Prajvara is fever, afflictions which hastens death. Old age, बीमारी. और बीमारी को दोनों तरह से कैटेगराइज किया है. The Yavanas are the disease of the mind and those of the body. When the Atman becomes conditioned by the equipment made up of the body and mind, it develops the quality I and mind. When these enter the mind, along with them come the many sufferings which the body undergoes, and the jivatma too, since it has become involved with the body, its pleasures and its pains. Same बात को और तरह से कहा जा रहा है कि जैसे ये आई और माई का भाव आता है, मैं और मेरा का भाव आता है, उसी के साथ सफरिंग्स शरीर और मन के अंदर जीवात्मा के प्रवेश कर जाती हैं. What then is the cure for this? Man dreams, and during his dream he undergoes What then is the cure for this? Man dreams, and during his dream he undergoes all the feelings, emotions, pleasures and suffering of the dream world. He has identified himself with the man who is dreaming, and naturally the suffering of the one are the suffering of the other. जो आदमी सपना देख रहा है और सपने में जो भी दुख भोग रहा है, वो सपने देखने वाला भी भोग रहा है. दो हो गए, एक जो सपना देख रहा है, एक जो ओरिजिनल स्टेट है जो उसको अनुभव कर रही है. दोनों सफर कर रहे हैं. The state of things will continue until the dreamer awakes. जब तक जाग नहीं जाओगे, ये सफरिंग तो नहीं खत्म होने वाली. The moment he awakes, the dreamer knows that all that he had been going through was not real, that it was all conjured up by the dream state, and that he need not suffer them because he is awake now. He knows the truth about his dream, but unless he wakes up, and until he wakes up, it is not possible for anyone to convince him that it is a false dream, that the dream world just does not exist. पृथ्वी पे कोई शक्ति नहीं है जो सपने देखते हुए आदमी को बोल सके कि ये सपना है, जाग जा, ये सत्य नहीं है. ये तो सिर्फ तभी मालूम चल सकता है जब वो जाग ही जाए, तभी रियलाइज होगा उसको. बाहर से नहीं उसको कन्विंस किया जा सकता, उसको जागना ही होगा. A dreamer has to wake up in order to realize that he was dreaming. Even so, the involvement of the jivatma with the body and the mind is like a dream. No amount of intellectual argument can convince him that his sufferings are all false. तुम सब के लिए ये बात, जो तुम अलग अलग तलों पे सफर करते हो. No amount of intellectual argument can convince him that his suffering are all false. सब झूठी suffering है. He has to wake up from his dream to realize the truth about himself. He has to wake up. And that's how chapter 53 ends. अगले चैप्टर का टाइटल पढ़ लेते हैं, चैप्टर नहीं पढ़ेंगे। अगले चैप्टर का टाइटल है द रोड टू फ्रीडम। उसकी पहली लाइन पढ़ देता हूँ। The only way which has helped man to learn about the truth is devotion to the Lord. He is the cause of everything and He is the refuge of all the sufferers. Devotion to Narayana makes the mind detached from the world of objects and it makes you realize the true nature of the jivatma, which is not different from Paramatma. यही रुकते हैं। The devotion. देखो कितना सुंदर है कि अभी बात की हमने mind, the senses and the desires and all of that. But ये वेद व्यास को बात पता थी और उनसे पहले ये नारद को बात पता थी। ये सब करना बड़ा कठिन है। तभी नारद ने बोला था वेद व्यास ऋषि को कि ग्रंथ लिखो ऐसा जो आम आदमी भी ईश्वर को पा सके, क्योंकि सेंसेस को कंट्रोल करना, फिर माइंड को कंट्रोल करना, डिजायर्स को कंट्रोल करना इज द पाथ, मे नॉट बी इजी। तो कैसे करेंगे? और उसके बिना होगा नहीं, क्योंकि ये बात भी सत्य है कि जब तक माइंड प्लेजर्स में और डिजायर्स में इन्वॉल्व है तब तक संसार में घुसा हुआ है वो। ये बात भी सत्य है। और इतनी क्षमता नहीं है उसके पास कि अपने प्लेजर सीकिंग को, अपनी डिजायर्स को त्याग सके। तो कैसे होगा ये काम? ये तो कैच 22 हो गया। बिना इसको किए मैं पहुंच नहीं सकता और ये मुझसे होगा नहीं। बिना इसको किए मैं पहुंच नहीं सकता। डिजायर्स को एकदम बंद कर दूं, माइंड को कंट्रोल कर लूं, सेंसेस को अपने वश में कर लूं, बिना इसको किए पहुंच नहीं सकता और ये मुझसे हो नहीं रहा। तो क्या ये तो कैच लॉक हो गया ना। दैट्स भागवतम की डिवोशन। जितनी तुम्हारे हृदय में ईश्वर भक्ति जागेगी, जितना तुम मनसा लेक में तैरना शुरू करोगे, उतना पुरंजनी से रिश्ता टूटता जाएगा। तो यहां आए तो वो छूटेगा। और वो छूटेगा का क्या मतलब है? वो का क्या मतलब? वो मतलब जो ऑब्सेसिव डिजायर्स और प्लेजर्स में जो फंस गए हम लोग किसी भी तरह के। यहां भी बात हुई है सिर्फ प्लेजर्स ऑफ द सेंसेस, बट मेरे देखिए और भी प्लेजर है, सेंसेस के नहीं है, सिर्फ माइंड के अपने प्लेजर्स हैं। वो सोच सोच के, बिना सेंसेस के। फॉर एन एग्जांपल, नेम फेम का प्लेजर तो सेंसेस के बियॉन्ड है। सारी दुनिया तुम्हें जान के ताली बजा रही है, अभी कोई सुख तो प्लेजर सेंस का नहीं मिल रहा इसमें। हाँ, बट सुन रहा हूं मैं अपनी बढ़ाइयां, इस सेंस में ये प्लेजर हो गया। बट ये माइंड क्रिएट कर रहा है, माइंड के अपने लेयर्स ऑफ प्लेजर्स हैं। तो जितना ईश्वर की भक्ति मेरे हृदय में जागने लगेगी, उतना स्वतः ही ये पकड़ छूटने लगेगी। तुम देखोगे कि तुम्हारा ध्यान ही उन ऑब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ प्लेजर्स में जाना बंद हो गया या कम हो गया। और तुम अभी भी देखोगे साधना में, अगर जिन क्षणों में, जिन दिनों तुम्हारे हृदय में बहुत भक्ति होती है, और ऐसे क्षण आते हैं और ऐसे दिन आते हैं जिस दिन ऐसे हृदय एकदम प्रफुल्लित होता है शिव के प्रेम में, प्रकृति के प्रेम में एकदम प्रफुल्लित होता है, उस दिन तुम्हारी भूख कम हो जाती है। कुछ मिल जाए, कैसा मिल जाए, तुम्हें एकदम कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। उस दिन तुम्हारी जो भी डिजायर्स तुम आम तौर पर करते हो, उनकी इंटेंसिटी कम हो जाती है। स्वतः ही तुम्हारा ध्यान ही नहीं जाता उस तरफ। द माइंड डज नॉट इवन मूव टूवर्ड्स दैट। तो ये है भागवतम, जो रास्ते को सरल बना रहा है, जो भक्ति का एक ऐसा आयाम खोल रहा है कि जिसमें फिर संघर्ष नहीं करना पड़ेगा। सरल, सहज, सीधा मार्ग हो जाएगा। संघर्ष से हटके सीधा सहज सरल मार्ग हो जाएगा। ये है भागवतम का गूढ़ रहस्य। ओ